here with
Hello.
Wendy T and Hope Skibitsky.
It's good to see everybody again.
Yes, indeed. Today, Wendy and I kind of want to talk about what it means to find contentment. We had some sidebar conversations as we typically do before things get started here, and we had a lot of thoughts, and I think it's important for us to share those thoughts. And so, honey, we were talking about, what's the difference between feeling content and not striving for better?
That's right. And so I think when we have goals, that's very healthy with like wanting to be in some other new place, but to also enjoy where we are and think back to where, like I've already come this far. I want to feel like I can love who I am,
Yeah.
whatever, whatever size jeans I might be wearing. But this came about because, I just think coming into December and having seen November had all of the elections, and then I got a chance to see Wicked, and it was this, Oz being this like land of, this perfect like theory of how things are supposed to be. And it got me thinking about how, sometimes we are not happy with where we are or enjoying who we are because of that strive for. And so, how do we find that, make that right, and not be unhappy or angry with the state of things when in reality, like, I'm okay right now? So, enjoying that part of, how do I work through that process? And also, how do I start being thoughtful about how somebody else is working through their process?
Yeah. No, I think it's good. Because there's a lot of conversations that people have about, wanting more. And I think I've mentioned Sean Aker probably more than is healthy in somebody's life because I really appreciate the happiness advantage that I saw in his TED Talk years ago. And he talks about like, you say that if I get a big house, then I'll be happy. And you get a big house, and then you say, well, if I got a bigger house, then I'd be happy. If I got an associate degree, then I'd be happy. And then I get an associate degree, and it's like, well, if I get a bachelor degree, then I'll be happy. It's like we are constantly moving the goalpost on what happy looks like to us.
It's so true because, happy people don't shoot their husbands. And so we keep striving for that.
Right. Right, says Reese Witherspoon. Yeah. And no, you're right. And so how do I say I'm content, that I'm happy, that, okay, there's always going to be something ugly, maybe that's happening in the world around me, or even in some part of my world, but by and large, I'm happy and that I want to feel content at the very least with where I'm at. And that doesn't mean that I wouldn't maybe find a goal, strive toward a goal, but instead it's like, want want yourself to do better and want more for yourself, but be okay with, where you're at. How do I start on that? Where do I start?
I think when I think about that, the idea of, when you have worldview, like we've traveled a lot, we can start seeing the lens of reality in more than whatever happens on Instagram. So the feelings that people have with their life tend to be very different when they're not looking at the way like so many people kind of see this ideal state.
Yes.
So, if somebody doesn't even understand that that's like maybe a thing, and like you and I talked about, my family in Vietnam has this idea that we literally have like gold toilet paper here, like it's just this like perfect life that, every time I turn on a faucet, there's just like gold running water coming out of it. And so, can they have that abundance?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm like, wow, they have all family together and they're, experiencing that kind of joy because I'm like, it's a lot of work to have the kind of idea that of what they think like is reality here.
Right.
And they're not spending that kind of time on that kind of work because they're enjoying time together as families. And so both sides of that seem to have like a want for the other side.
100%. Curly headed girls want straight haired girls want curly hair. I mean, not all inclusive, but by and large, you always think like, ooh, if I.
Everybody wants Hope's hair.
Until they only sleep one night on it and the next day it's a frizzy mess.
Nobody here feels sorry for you.
I love you for that. So I do this sometimes. So I love a good rom-com. I love a good comedy or romantic movie just in general. And sometimes after I watch a good romantic movie and I will talk to Justin, I'll say, "Oh, I wish we did some of that stuff." He's like, "Hope that's not real." I'm like, "What do you mean it's not real?" And he's like,
Justin seems to be so romantic too.
"Yeah, he is. But it's not an all the time thing, right? Like he doesn't believe,
He's not doing a scavenger hunt for you every day.
oh, I wish. No. But he has those
Yeah.
moments that I know then live in there, and he invests in me in a way that he knows I find interesting. But it doesn't happen every day. And this is the idea of when you first get together with somebody, you have that whole Twitter pated feeling and, butterflies in your stomach. And when that subsides, it isn't that you stopped loving that person, it's that you found the comfort together that you then, is more than just friendship or even infatuation. It's the love and comfort that comes with that contentment, right? And that doesn't mean I don't every now and again want, a bubble bath in a movie that doesn't include Chucky. Uh, Justin, we decided we were going to have a romantic bubble bath night. He brings the computer and we're watching Chucky in the tub. Like, what?
Oh, Justin.
He's like, "Hey, you picked the scene. I got to pick the film."
We do love Justin,
We
because he is the first person to also point out when we're not happy with something, like, what are we doing about it?
He is good at that. If I have a gripe and a complaint, and then I revisit that gripe and complaint, and then there's an actual option on how to resolve that gripe and complaint, but I haven't done anything about it, and then I come back with the gripe and complaint, and he's like, "Do something about it or stop talking about it." And
And so
I'm like,
innocent of the FaceTime call where you were like, if only there was something you could do about that. Look at Justin rubbing off on you.
I know, for real though, right?
Yeah, the things
Joseph.
that I worry about or think about, if there are get well plans to that, then, like I need to put in that work and effort. And when I think about how can I enjoy that process and be true to who I am through it, that's where I think I can start appreciating the journey and the, authenticity of who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the contentment is different than settling. Like somebody doesn't have to say, "I want to be, I don't know, a butterfly expert." I'm making this up. And they find that they're in a location that is better filled with moths. I don't think that you should settle on moths if butterflies are what you're after. I do think you keep striving. However, I think that if I get a house and I'll be happy, and then you get a house and it's like, I need a bigger house. Like, do you, or are you trying to keep up with someone else's definition of happy? And could you be content with something that you've got? Could you be content with where you are and celebrate the goodness that is your reality?
And so that's what I think about how to be thoughtful with how I'm approaching somebody else in their situation.
Yeah.
So there were, I've been listening to more Audible. That's because it's not my preference, but I tend to get through more books on Audible. And one of the books that I was listening to was this, it's okay if you're not okay. And it really made me think about how I approach people with grief.
Mm.
And they're maybe not responding in those situations the same as I would be. And so how to really be thoughtful about how to not make it harder for somebody else when I'm trying to be helpful,
Yeah.
and recognizing that how they walk through it is different than how anybody else will for their situation. And at the same time, I was a little critical in the book of like, this is what's working for her situation.
Yeah. But I
So
mean, I
I,
think
I
though, and this is going to sound pejorative and it's not my intent, but like if I already feel down and ugh, and I go listen to sad songs that make me feel more down and ugh, I feel like all that's going to do is perpetuate ugh. And so I think that if I am down in ugh and I want to kind of climb out of that, at some point, I need to put on some bubblegum music and I need to be around people that are in a better headspace, so that I can start to feel like I'm going to come back from a thing because you can wallow in a thing for too long. You really, really can. I mean, I think that we need
Yeah.
to be there at some point, but we need to also move on from there. But
And
I,
and how to be thoughtful in that would be like the day one for you is probably like not the time for me to be like, well, look at the bright side.
yeah.
Because that's not necessarily the contentment piece of it, and that's not the thoughtful piece of it. And this is where I think we talk often about not having clairvoyance. So how do I be helpful to you and thoughtful to you? And so what your ideal state, what you think this perfect might look like, or how this better might look like, and where you are today, and how I'm commenting on what your thought process is. I just think that everybody just seems mad or angry or sad right now. And my bubblegum music on day one is not what necessarily they're ready for on day one.
Yeah.
Um,
That being said, too, if we're talking about like being content, like finding contentment in your life so that you can feel comfortable and demonstrate gratitude, because even if there's a part of life that sucks, because everybody, I mean, that's just real life, part of life sucks. There's a lot of good in life that we tend to look past and ignore when something sucks. Because you'll hear it say, oh, this has been an absolute junk day. When in reality, there might have been 5 or 7 or 12 really good things. And I don't mean like monumentous, but good things that happened that we'll have ignored because we were so willing to just be mired down in the ugh.
mhm.
And so, how do we find contentment? And so, having us somebody, we talked about connection in several of these conversations. Having us somebody that you can talk to. And so, you're my somebody. And sometimes, you are a bubbly, optimistic person. And so, when I talk to you and I say, ugh, this sucks, you're like, yeah, but it could have. And I'm like, not now. That's not what I'm feeling right now. I need you to be with me through the ugh so that I can have
You're
you
right.
drag me out of it when I'm ready.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's been very helpful for me in being a better friend to other people, and just kind of like trying to meet somebody where they are and help them along, and be sensitive to, like, this is what I talk about with thoughtful, but also not mind reader.
Well, girl, you know how I feel about that. Like, I am a firm believer that there is no such thing as clairvoyance. And so I am going to start a campaign called Cancel Clairvoyance, because nobody needs to expect that somebody else is going to know what's on your mind. Y'all, like, if you need something, remember that closed mouths don't get fed. Say something. Say the thing you need. Don't make people guess it. I hate when people say, "Oh, well, my significant other or my best friend isn't doing the thing I need them to do." And you say, "Well, did you tell them?" And they're like, "No, they should already know." Should they though? Should they though? Should they though? So like you and I were speaking like on loss, right? Like I lose a family member, which happened here recently. And some people feel like I just don't want to talk about that around you because I don't want to make you upset. Where other people might say, no, I want you to talk about that with me because I need you to be with me through this thing, but I also want you to help me. Let's talk about the person I lost because they were a big part of my life, and I don't mind hearing their name and talking about our experiences together because I don't want to forget them.
And if I am not talking about them because I don't want to like bring that up for you, then you're working hard to placate how I'm treating the situation, which is what I mean when I say like I'm trying to be thoughtful about how not to make it harder for you.
Yeah, because then all of a
So,
sudden I'm like, oh,
what
Wendy doesn't want to mention her name, so I'm just going to not mention her name either. And then now I'm trying really hard to accommodate you in a time that's already hard for me.
Mhm. Yeah. So I think we've kind of like talked about a whole lot of feelings on every kind of aspect of life. But I think when, again, like I watched Wicked, and it seemed so clear to me that the feelings over what life should be, or what this, idea state is for this place, the Emerald City perfection, and the people who, are kind of like following on this path of, oh, well, this is what we need to do to get there. And then, Elphaba kind of realizing like, no, I don't think that's right for me. And being able to be okay with her own independent voice when she had been so outcast that it was important to her, or maybe not important to her, but there was a desire to fit in. There was a feeling like I'm just never going to fit in. And then, her realization of like, that isn't real and that isn't the life for me. So, how do I, for our listeners, how do we walk through? How do I get to the place where I want to go and feel good about who I am?
Yeah.
And feel good about having the conversations with the people who are rooting for me on the way.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things that like we tend sometimes to cast shade when somebody has something in excess. I'm going to make it up. You see somebody driving a super fancy car. And a super fancy car is never where you would feel like investing your money. So you throw shade and you're like, oh, what a waste of money. That thing depreciates the minute they drive it off the lot. And so you throw shade at that person's thing. But you know what? It's okay for them to need the thing that they need or to spend their time or money or effort or energy on the thing that they spend those things on. And it's also okay for you to be perfectly content driving your 1982 Toyota Corolla. It's okay. But I think demonstrating for yourself that I'm content with where I am in that, and that I'm going to celebrate with them that they're content where they are, and that we can be wonderfully connected and not be on the same page with what each of us needs and wants in life. Wendy is
What
one of
she's
the
saying there,
smartest
what
people
she's
I know.
saying, yeah, what she's saying there is like, I'm never going to have hope hair.
I would never ever. You can have it. I'll cut it off and give it. Um, but Wendy is one of the smartest people I know. I mean, like a degree in everything, nuclear, pick something or other. And I'm the guy that graduated 18 out of 36. Okay. And so for a lot of times, I always thought, gosh, I feel like they say that you're an average of the five people you spend the most time with. And I'm like, ooh, I am bringing down this average because like I'm that person that like school is just not my favorite thing. And it's not that I'm necessarily bad at it. It's that it's just not my favorite thing. And so I always felt like, gosh, is Wendy going to love me less if I'm not the smartest kid in her group of five? And then I thought, you know what? She's the one that's bought into all that academics, not me. And it's okay. And I need to be okay with that because she's never judged me for it. So if she ain't casting that shade at me, why am I doing it to myself?
And like another side note there, Hope is also like the first person I call for that. What does this mean?
She's also the one that can't figure out why you want to put something through a door on the side that doesn't open so that when somebody opens the door, it doesn't come flying at your face. Ah.
That's right. That's right. Yes. Also like NASA.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all that to say, lots of degrees does not make me smarter than anybody.
Yeah. I sometimes feel like I need to put Wendy in a bubble wrap suit. Uh, yeah.
I absolutely, we were all themed for watching Wicked, and I'm like, oh, I would totally travel in a bubble.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for contentment. So when Justin very first decided that he wanted to completely change his life and get into some plant and soil stuff, and now he is a Texas master gardener, and he's really enjoying the whole teach people to understand like sustainable agriculture and living off the land and all that and all that. Um, at first I was like, gosh, he is going to get bored. Like he always seemed like a real like busy person and had all this stuff happening. And he is enjoying the heck out of it. And it was me projecting that he was going to get bored. It was me projecting that he wouldn't want to spend that much time alone talking to plants. Uh, but
I
he
was actually just talking, I was talking with my mom about this because, she talks about how, how proud she is with me for school stuff. And I was like, oh, you could do it too, and she said, no, I tried to do this, class. And I said, but no, you don't, you could make something interesting to you. And so I mentioned Justin because my mom is the person who likes to talk to her plants. Like she literally talks about talking to her mints all the time, and she worries about taking longer trips because she has to be away from her plants. So,
That's
yeah,
nice.
she's that girl. And those are words never said about this girl,
Oh
not
my God.
one time.
Black. Two black thumbs. When Garrett was little, he used to say all the time, "It's like, Mom, we would go shopping so I could put new plants around the house." He'd say, "Which ones are we going to kill this year?" I'm like,
Garrett. Hey, speaking of Garrett, where is he now?
he's in Japan. He's loving it.
Is he?
Yes, he's trying
So,
everything new. He is always like, "Oh, I tasted something new today," or I drank a new kind of drink, or I'm trying these new things. He's loving it.
okay, so like that's an interesting case study about, when we look at contentment and striving.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've talked about Garrett quite a bit and his, trying to get to a place where he was going to feel fulfilled. And I've never seen him so talkative or so, I mean, he has never been introverted. When I came out to San Antonio, when you all weren't there, I asked him if he could meet up for dinner and he met with the whole group of us and it was the first person there and held down the table and it was just chatty, chatty, chatty. So, he's not introverted, but I've never heard him talk more than how absolutely just joyful he is with his current state.
So we have always said that Garrett was like water, right? He is always just going to take the path of least resistance. Garrett is a lover, not a fighter. He's that guy that will like go with the flow, do whatever, whatever. And he had his heart set on joining the Navy. And it didn't work out at the first. And there was a whole bunch of stuff, and we had to untangle necklaces for years. And last year, his boss loved what he had been doing over the course of the past several years and wanted to send him back to school to get certified in the thing he was doing and was like, "Look, we'll pay for it. And if you just give me 5 years, we'll give you this salary." And it was pretty good. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, Garrett, they're going to send you to school. They're going to do all these things. You should do it." He's
This
like,
is a, this is a civilian boss. This is like,
Billion boss.
yeah.
And he was like, I just don't see myself doing that forever. And I was like, honey, but you're not putting yourself in the way of anything different. So I think you should take this and do really good at it, or start saying that this is what you're doing forever, because you're not putting yourself in the way of anything different. And so he decided one last time to go take another shot at the Navy, and it worked out. And he got in, and man, you could have seen his heart explode. Like it was everything he'd ever wanted. And so here he is now, like doing the thing he wanted. And I just was talking about contentment. That was one of the things I said, "Look, dude, if you're content with where you are, I support you. Like if you want to clean houses, or if you want to build houses, or if you want to be the guy that designs those houses, I don't care. Whatever you do, I support you, and I will love you no matter what your choice in life. But make the decision that that's your choice and that's what you want." And he finally realized that he was not content there, and that he was just kind of existing in it. And this is, I think, your point, Wendy, that he was always amazing and wonderful and kind and cordial and all that, but he just wasn't his true self. And now, I mean,
Thriving.
oh, he is.
We were at his boot camp a year ago, right now, a year ago. I mean, I just, he was so proud. He
Yeah.
is so proud, of every aspect of it, of the fitness, of the school and education thing, which I have never associated with Garrett as far as like, I'm doing all these tests and this and that, whatever, and this is how I'm doing the
Class, like,
uniform
yeah.
inspections, all of it. Like he is in love.
Yeah. And every time the Navy has him do one of those, like, somebody's got to do it tasks, Garrett's like, "Okay, I don't care. Like, I would rather be doing this nobody wants it task in the Navy than be anywhere else."
Yeah, and he's been wildly successful too,
Yeah, he is loving it.
which is like a great testament to pursue, like you do you, right?
Yeah, and
And
don't give up on your dreams at that. Like, it's what I said. If you've got a goal, head for that goal, strive for that goal, and don't quit. Don't make goals, though, just because you believe that someone else is going to judge you for being okay with where you're at. If you're okay with where you're at, why does it matter what anybody else thinks?
yeah, I think he's a great case study for that. So,
Yeah.
and he's crushing it. So, Garrett, we're so proud of
Yay.
you.
Yeah, for sure.
And good for him for just saying, like, this isn't what I really want. And so then just to kind of reframe that idea, if this isn't what you want, what are you doing about it?
Yeah. if like either do something about it or stop griping about it, right? And so yeah, 100%. I just encourage people to believe that their opinion of where they are in life is the opinion that matters. If they're happy about what they're doing, be happy about what you're doing. If you know that something else needs to happen in order for you to be happy, do that thing. But don't just move the happiness goalpost, in Sean Akers' words, not mine, because you feel like you accomplished that first thing. If that first thing was the thing you wanted, revel in it.
And good for him. And so for my life, what does that look like? I mean, it took me this whole year to kind of like get into a good rhythm of what this year was going to look like for me.
And now you're like the busiest person.
As are you.
Well, I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yes, yes. And we keep trying to add more to your plate.
But my contentment says I would rather be busy than bored, right? Like there is nothing worse than me being bored. I'll punch a hole in the wall and try to build a new room. Just because like my contentment does not look like boredom. This is not who I am.
Right. The everything is more fun when you're around. Every time I see like different memories that pop up, I think about some of the adventures we've had on like been through. And I think only hope would, have this wild experience of, you know, free food, free food tasting at a grand opening of a restaurant that hasn't even opened yet. Like those are the kinds of experiences you get when you hang out with Hope Skibitsky. So
One, because I'm not above begging, right?
what do you mean you're not open? You're like, oh, well, come on in. Just come try all of our food
I'm
that
like,
we're
but there's
testing.
people in here and somebody's wearing a chef's coat, which means someone's got to be cooking. Can we be your taste testers? And they were like, oh, really?
Never shy when it comes to food.
Oh, I love food.
I know you eat like a hostage, even though you're like super miniature.
Oh, Justin and I were just having this conversation. I'm like, I will clean the food off my plate. I'm just not a snacker. I think that's where I kind of balance that out. Like, I'm not a snacker. I'll walk past snacks. I'm not a fan of sweets, like, meh, but I will literally eat everything on my plate. And yours too, maybe.
But also, the answer to fries is always yes. If you ever get
Remember
me a
that
train
sign I
now.
sent you? It was like more exercise or do exercise. Oh, I thought you said do fries or more fries. I saw that. I was like, that's me.
Yes, you and Tammy both. Like, I don't think there's a French fry she doesn't like. So,
I never met a potato I didn't like.
yeah. So
This was
my
fun.
my parents just got here, and I am so impressed that Lulu did not like erupt into like the somebody's here. So I guess that's a sign that they are part of the home now because she's just chilling.
I
Like,
know I got my puppy over here, like trying to
yeah,
dig a hole in the chair.
I just like think like a decade ago, would we have ever imagined that our life would be so evolved to my little baby? And there's got to be 50,000 pictures of Scapito and Lulu. Obviously, Scapito's been gone now for a little over a year, but now there's, still thousands of. I take pictures of Lulu every day.
Like if
That's
you
the
saw my
contentment.
phone, like greater than half of the pictures on it are the dog.
It's just crazy. I just did not imagine that would be contentment in my life.
We should do a whole episode on like the love we found in our animals because like I'll tell you, I never thought I could have an animal. I got such bad allergies, y'all. Like I'm allergic to everything. And so I have always had allergies to animals. And while he still has some of that effect on me, Allegra at least works him out. But him not having any hair works out so good.
Yeah, yeah. You did love on my babies, even though they were full of hair.
But I always prepped myself with some additional Allegra if we knew we were going to be around, y'all.
Right. That's right. So I just feel
Ah,
excited. Like we're diving into December and people are going to be shaping up their plans for, the rest of the holiday season. I am just so excited for closing out this year and feeling good about what 24 brought. So I had to work on that a lot for me.
me
So
too.
no,
But the start
no,
of this year was tumultuous for both of us.
yeah. So I think, trying to figure that out and feel not like I'm like looking at everybody else's Oz and saying that's what it should look like and feeling good about who I am. So work in progress there.
Yep, I think it's good. And y'all, I think our takeaway here is if you're happy, be happy, and we're happy for you.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I could talk to you all day, and I know you would too.
I
But
know. I know.
I think it's time for us to let everybody know that if you got something you want to hear us talk about, or if you want to tell us what you thought about what we talked about, you can find us in video on YouTube. You can send us an email at orangegumpodcast@gmail.com, or you can look up all of our episodes at orangegumpodcast.com. But as always, we'll see you next
Mhm.
time.
All right. Bye, you guys.
Take care, y'all.